So for this project, I'm making petals from a vase, and I'm taking the very top off because I don't want that, and I'm nipping the first piece. And this piece I cut in half and set the other piece aside. You can see one end is pointy, and the top, which is flat, I just nip around the perimeter so that it is rounded and it creates a petal. For those of you who already know how to do this, just fast forward through this part. And there you have your petal. And I'm going to nip up a whole bunch of these. And yes, the edges are sharp. So here's the other piece that I had set aside, and one end is kind of pointy, but I'm going to make it a little bit pointier by cutting it with my nippers. And then the flat top I'm going to round again to make it look like a petal. And the reason you'd want to use a vase is because then the glass does not just sit flat. It's not like stained glass. It has more of a curve to it. It looks more natural. It looks more like a flower petal. And there's a second one. So I just continue nipping around the perimeter of the vase and getting pieces off. And when you're cutting up petals, depending on how large you want the petal to be, if you do it straight, you'll get a thinner petal. If you angle it down like that, you'll get a fatter petal. So it just depends on what you're looking for, you know, how large you want your petals to be. And again, I nip it, and this can be turned into 2 petals. And again, cut it in half. One end is pointy. I make it a little bit pointier, and then up toward the top where it's flat, I just nip around it so that it has a rounded edge like a flower petal would. And then this is what it looks like. And I continue to nip up flower petals until I have enough for my project. So now I'm just going to fast forward through it until I get enough flower petals. And this is what they look like, pointed at one end and rounded at the other. Next, I throw them in my 3-pound tumbler. I just cover them with water, put a squirt of Dawn dish soap in it, and all the Dawn dish soap does is helps to clean it. It has nothing to do with taking the sharp edges off. And then I tumble it for 1 hour. And honestly, the thicker glass 1 hour, thinner glass sometimes takes a little bit longer. And it's such an easy process, and then your glass is no longer sharp. You just rinse it off and lay it out on a towel to dry. Next, I took Tamiya Pearl White spray paint. This is not translucent or advertised as translucent, but if you put a light enough coat on it, it is translucent. And I sprayed all of the glass with it that I'm going to use for this project, and I actually did give it a couple coats because it was so light and translucent. I wanted it a little bit darker than that, and just let it dry. And honestly, this Tamiya spray paint dries within 15 minutes, and it's ready to use. It does not run, it does not fade. Next, I took something called Let's Resin Chameleon Flakes and some UV resin, mixed them together in a little cup, and then actually used my finger to swipe it on all of the petals. And then I just took the UV light and went down the line, put it on top for a couple of minutes, and then moved it to the center, put it on for a couple more minutes, and down to the end until it was all the resin. So in the past, when I was doing the flowers, I would put the UV resin on and kind of hold the end up to hold the edges of it up a little bit. And Loretta from our Facebook group, and also she has a YouTube channel called Awesome Incidentals, said, why don't we just put it in a little bowl like this? And I said, oh, that's a good idea. I had done something like that before with the epoxy resin and the poppies that I had, but like I said, I was using the epoxy resin, and there's no way that you can just hold that up for 8 hours, so I had to use a bowl. But for some reason, I never thought about it with the UV resin. So anyway, thanks for that tip, Loretta, and that made it so much easier. And I just put the resin on and the UV light on, and that's pretty much how I put the whole thing together. Then I flip it over and do the UV light on the back side to make sure that's all set also. Next I took some more glass. So these petals are smaller than the white flower, but they are the exact same shape, just smaller. And I took the Krylon Fusion all-in-one paint and primer, and it's a gloss hot pink. And even if you use a hot or a flat paint, when you put resin over it, it will become shiny or like a gloss. One good coat and let it dry. And I started putting the little pink flowers together. And for this, I'm using a new product. It's also a UV resin made by Let's Resin, but it's called a bonding resin. And instead of taking 2 to 3 minutes for it to set, it actually takes seconds. And it comes with the little bottle of UV bonding resin and also the light, the pen light. And all you do is shine the light on it and put the resin on, or the other way around. Put the resin on, then put the light on, and voila. It just takes seconds for it to hold together. Then I just start putting the whole project together. So I didn't talk about the frame before, but this frame I actually found at a garage sale a long time ago. And when I do my frames, I always remove the back of the glass and put a bead of glue, Elmer's glue, around the perimeter of the back, and then I replace the glass and put another bead of glue all the way around the perimeter. And I let this dry for 24 hours, and as you can see, there's blue tape all the way around the back. I also put blue tape back there as an extra precaution against resin leaks. So you can see me with the long strands of glass, which are vitrograph glass. Vitrograph glass is just that, long strands of glass that I buy on Etsy. This is actually from J&L Glass. A lady in our Facebook group is selling it now too. Her name is Teresa Wolf. And the glass, the larger stems, is actually stained glass that I've cut and I have tumbled in my tumbler. Gosh, that glass I tumbled a long time ago, and I think I tumbled it for several days, and I gave it a nice smooth edge. I decide I'm going to use the Chameleon Flakes on the pink flowers too. So I just go ahead and mix it up the same way with some UV resin and the Chameleon Flakes and swipe it on with my finger. And honestly, it takes seconds to do, and it just added a little extra sparkle to each of the pink flowers. The resin I'm using for this project is Naked Fusion. This is the new and improved version. It is UV resistant, has 0 VOCs, and I believe it is also food safe, just like the art resin. Now, I have not tested this on canvas. I tested the original version on canvas, but not this one yet. Next, I start putting the pink flowers back on because now they have the Chameleon Flakes on it, and just kind of finishing setting up the project. I have a couple pink butterflies. I pick up the flowers and put the resin underneath the flowers. I usually put the resin on all the glass first, but I think I'm just trying to get it under the flowers first. And then I start putting it on all the glass and the flowers, and I like everything covered with resin. You got to be kind of careful though with those flowers because I have them hanging over the frame there. You don't want to get the resin dripping on the frame. So and at the very bottom I put some green glass. This is green fire glass that I had picked up on Amazon, and it's actually one that I had originally bought to make Christmas trees. It's a real pretty green color, and it does have a reflective silver on one side. The last minute I remember I need some leaves for my flowers, so I do use some of the larger pieces of the reflective green fire glass for leaves. I'm not sure how great that turned out, but a lot of times I When I always get 1/4 inch fiberglass, but inevitably there's going to be some 1/2 inch pieces in there, and I don't usually cut them. I try to use them for leaves a lot of the time, and I do have some other green leaves that I'd cut off a vase for the 2 larger flowers, and I have the 2 little butterflies, and then I pour a little or drizzle a little bit of resin over the fiberglass. It's best to drizzle resin over the fiberglass instead of flooding it because it'll appear more sparkly. And then I take some little beads and just add some little things to the very bottom of the project, and continue to make sure everything's covered with resin. I use my kitchen torch to get rid of the bubbles. After I'm done with the project, I always come back every 15 minutes to make sure none of the glass is moved, to retorch if I see more bubbles, and to use a toothpick to get any sediment out. This particular resin sets best at temperatures between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It needs to sit on a flat level surface, and it's in your best interest to cover it with a dust cover. All resins are different. You need to read the directions for the resin that you are using. Hey everyone, another project. So I love the way these flowers came out. And for me, using the UV resin and putting them together and being able to move them around and place them where I want on the project is just so much easier for me. I get really frustrated when I'm trying to put one piece of glass on top of the other and they're falling off, and especially with so many petals on this. I think it would have just drove me crazy. And that, the Chameleon Flakes, I hope you can see what I see. They just make it so pretty, the colors in them. And I also put the Chameleon Flakes on the pink. So the white is painted with Tamaya White Pearl spray paint, and someone on our Facebook page had painted some white flowers with it, and I thought, oh, that looks pretty. That doesn't look like, a normal just white plain spray paint. And I asked her, and that's what she had used, and if you spray this light enough, it can be translucent also. So anyway, the pearl white and the combination of these Let's Resin Chameleon Flakes, I think, made it look real pretty. And the pink I put on here, I think it's a Krylon hot pink. I'll link it under the description. And that also has the Chameleon Flakes on it. And really, I think they add a real kind of, I don't know if it's a glitter, but it's a real iridescent, pretty look. I wished I had made my stems a little skinnier. I don't really like how fat that stem is there. Wish I would have put another white flower on there, so they would have been 3. I feel like you always have to have an odd number of flowers. It looks prettier. And the bottom turned out cute. I put a little butterfly down there and a bunch of glass and beads. And I did add some other flowers at the end, but they're so translucent, I don't know if you can see them or not. And then I added some extra glass around the edges. I thought that looked pretty. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps the channel. Go ahead and subscribe. I try to release a video every week, and with the holidays coming up in another couple months, I'll be putting out like 2. I'll try to put out 2 a week. And Facebook page is going great. An amazing group of people. Everybody has so many amazing ideas. It just blows my mind. I can't keep up with you guys. You try to think of something that somebody hasn't already done, or a twist on it or something like that, but everybody has so many creative ideas, you won't believe it. Anyway, come join us there, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks for watching.